and therefore people had to kind of pivot and do things very quickly to try and help support that.
Interesting. So is that requiring more infrastructure on that had to be emergency installed or bought that providers weren't quite ready to handle? Is it causing you to contract out more than you have in the past?
Yeah. No, I mean, we were fortunate because we had already been turning up additional capacities for normal network growth, and we were able to repurpose that for this new demand that had all of a sudden just literally, as I say, Thursday, Friday, people are told, hey, go work from home. And from that point on, fast forward almost a year now, right? We've been working in this mode of operation. We had to quickly kind of pivot and take that capacity that we had ready to be used for something else we've been working on and kind of use it for this. So from our standpoint, we were pretty good. From others, you noticed, again, to like the Google Meets or the WebExes and stuff, that you were starting to see latency or capacity constraints, or you couldn't connect because you didn't have the infrastructure to back it up. So you've noticed over a period of time, it's gotten better because those companies or vendors have worked on increasing the bandwidth to be able to support the demand of everyone now working instead of, meeting in a huddle room or an office. They're now all meeting on, systems like this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. That's I have to admit it. From that aspect, I haven't heard, and that just may be because I'm uninformed, any major issues, but just thinking of the sheer increase in usage of Zoom, Teams, Wizard, whatever, it's just astounding. And I just started a new job, and that's allowing me to be remote. So my use of Teams has increased, and at the same time, talking to friends and family members who they have been telecommuting since COVID started, and now they'll probably never go back to an office. They're doing everything.
Yeah, I mean, from a global business perspective, when you think about it, financial from a financial priority, I guess, or financial consumption from a business, number one is going to be payroll. Right. Number two is normally kind of your infrastructure, maintenance, upkeep, building costs, insurance, etc. So, when you think about it from a global perspective, every business on the planet is now going to be looking at what could I do? Do I really need 10 buildings? Can I do it in 2? Right. And do some kind of hybrid, people working from home, because people have done it, right? Where folks would have asked, can I work from home? If you were the person that took that to the board or the CEO and said, I think we should trial this and see if it works, you'd have been fired or claimed insane, right? But we were literally forced into that situation. And it's been proven in most cases, not every case, but most cases, I think it's been successful. And now all businesses, I think, are going to start looking at that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Well, it was funny just before COVID was hitting. I know I was reading the Wall Street Journal article on how some of these forward-thinking companies that were allowing telecommuting, IBM and a few others, were now starting to ratchet down.
Right.
It's helping out. But I
issues.
Portion. That's what I'm trying to load right now. Yeah.
Let's see.
About the same thing. The reason I'm hitting on the subject is you personally, the shotgun it applies to you, and if you don't think it's you just kind of interesting. I don't think so. I think you're good. You got a good mixture. You're doing well in the course. I think you really hit it. Straighten your eyes. Don't be drill with theory or good. First thing I'm for when we talk about motivation is, are we talking intrinsic or extrinsic force? And the study here with a nonprofit and a for-profit gives us an opportunity to kind of explore that a little bit. As an example, Marriott will tend to be more extrinsic on its rewards, so perhaps than some providers and certainly those into the trainings rewards with pay. So typically your staff that works for a nonprofit is probably more energized by intrinsic. So just opportunity for those cases. The army area, and you're going to more prone to work for a profit or loads trying to get that driving you. Typically, the majority also for profit. Energize everybody. If you're LDR 300, you get to six different theories of motivation. That's one of them. Reward-based system, and you need needs. Reward-based looking at parents as our needs is needs-based. As included equity theory and Herzberg's, if I'm not mistaken. So again, you're hitting it. In our for a course.
Right. No, that's what I'm aiming for. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see it, and you certainly
good. There's enough.
Yeah, you spend all your money on stuff, so it's a vicious cycle.
Oh man.
Okay, so I think we're good on that. Look at it just briefly. I was more with others.
Right.
My wife's so we'll suffer it for me.
Yeah, I use my wife as my sounding board, asking things,
It's up for failure. Readiness to. So I don't very. Remember, I'm your eyes. So don't spend all time regurgitating the case because I know the case. I'm the one who signed it to you. So save you some time. In that is and it's their style. But if we want to try to find some brevity, or if we want to be able to fit more knowledge into its paper, we'll assume I love the background and what we're going to do.
Right.
Okay, so where did you read this week?
I'm almost done. I've got a page left on one book. I've been going through the grading rubric for the final paper just to make sure, that the content that I'm putting in there kind of aligns with what you're looking for, and obviously with the comments you're kind of posting each week, which is kind of help guide that too. Just to make sure I'm kind of bearing that in the back of my mind as well as you're writing this stuff. So
good. You're in there. There's plenty in there. I think the real thing is you've done it the way we've asked, which is you've attended to it every week. You covered the length and depth that we're looking for. This is ultimately going to turn into about a 25 paper. And as I mentioned before, thought was in the past, people would wait till the last minute to try to write a 25-page paper. And you can imagine how painful that was. Not
Oh yeah.
not grading on the pages. I don't grade on the number of pages. Lack of grade on word count. Even 15 pages and not many words, and still make points. You'll get credit for it. You know, conversely, if it takes you, 50 pages, I might gripe at you, in your absence. But I get it. Yes, these points, we're not spending a whole lot of time with fluff garbage. And by fluff and garbage, I mean, some famous type,
Uh-huh.
I do a reason we're out of right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think can you be an effective leader with kindness or to that effect? In other words, is kindness a weakness?
A weakness
in a leader.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So you can see that tended to align with the Marriott chapter. Not so random acts of kindness. So I'm not exactly satisfied with that particular question. We tend to, obviously change them and update them and move them around. And, by the time you finished, writing 16 questions for a course and then revamping them and doing that a few times, you tend to get one that doesn't quite work. But so far, that particular question has opened up some interesting discourse. So I'll be interested to see what everybody's take on it is. And it's not designed to be touchy-feely, and there's not as I've told students in the past, there's not a right answer on this. In other words, I'm not grading you well if you say, yes, you certainly can be kind. In fact, being kind is the epitome of leader. You can obviously argue it the other way and still get the same amount of credit, provided that you backed up, and explained, your reasoning for it.
Right.
It kind of gets back to that. It tends to get wore out a little bit, but we had a general during our war between the states for the South, General Robert E. Lee, who is looked upon or was looked upon as one of our better, greater American generals, even though he was obviously on the rebellion side. He was still venerated, and to this day is, because of some of his leadership style and his success. And they were still, considered American, after the Reconstruction and, bringing everybody back together after a horrific war. And in that aspect, it says that you tend to have to destroy the very thing that you love. In other words, to be an effective leader, you must love your army. But to be an effective, general, you must be willing to destroy the thing that you love. In other words, send it into harm's way. And it's a paradox. It's, in many aspects, it almost sounds trite or unbelievable that somebody would even make a point like that. However, you see these paradox aspects popping up all over the place. Just think of the term tough love.
Right.
So part of that, when pulling that question apart, your response or evidence, depending on how you approach it, would have to include an assessment of effect. In other words, if I am quote unquote unkind, say I'm very terse or perhaps not very complimentary, maybe I even challenge your manhood or otherwise call you out, as tends to happen on the football field or in a military organization. come on, you sons of bitches, do you want to live forever, or words to that effect? Is that done out of an intent to hurt or injure, or is it done to try to motivate? In other words, if I look at the effect I want, does that validate the tool I've used? And,
Right.
and that's not to say we're not getting back to a Machiavellian argument of ends justifies the means. And although Machiavelli didn't quite say that, it's still understood that that typically is not where we want to be. There is some aspect of that that's valid for all leaders, and that is if I kick you in the pants a little bit, and that generates a desire to prove me wrong, or I'll show that old man or whatever. Hey, then was that ineffective?
Right.
Did you ever see the movie Invincible, story of Vince Papale?
Yes, with it was Mark Wahlberg played the Philadelphia Eagle player, right?
Yeah, great. You wonder where his first wife is these days.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he
Yeah.
put that piece of paper in the movie. Now, whether that's true or not,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was the kick in the ass he needed.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I'm being flippant. I mean, obviously there was more dynamic to, the relationship, I'm sure. And I'm not defending boorish behavior.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You kind of wonder, hey, maybe I should credit the person a little bit more than I am, because
right.
At that moment in time, I needed that.
Yeah. Well, because you're looking for, a reaction, a response, right, to the catalyst that drove, in that example, right, the letter, right, or the piece of paper, the kind of, to your point, the kick in the ass that, motivated him to get up and do something different than just sticking with what he was doing, right? So it became the catalyst that drove him to where he went, we think, right? So, I mean, it's all, hypothetical, but hopefully you think, to your point, that, if you are, sometimes it's, what's the term you use? Tough love, right? It's like the intervention, right? You're having an intervention with someone to say, look, you got to pull yourself together, right? And this is why, right? And sometimes it takes, some tough love to point that out to somebody, to motivate them to go do something different and reap the benefit of it, right? Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I think I'm good. I'm hopefully going to have this wrapped up tonight for this week's stuff. I just wanted to make sure you were good with chapters 3 and 4. And then I'll work on, obviously, the responding to others in the class, and then working on, the final chapter, I guess, of the paper that I'm looking at right now, and piecing that together and getting that in by the weekend. So that should wrap that up. And then next week, working on the flow, the overall table of contents, making sure it kind of goes together, and, adding the other pieces in, the conclusions and the summary at the beginning, the intro and stuff.
Yeah, perfect. You're in there.
Okay. All right. Well, Professor, I appreciate it. It's 5:45. You've got to go get a cold drink at least. And I'm going to go work on this and get it wrapped up.
Yeah, that's the problem. I have to read some papers. So I tell everybody.
Okay. Well, read mine after you've been drinking and then go.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll hold
well,
on.
Professor, I appreciate the time, and this does help, and the comments too. So I do appreciate it. And if there's something else I need to be doing, just let me know.
Believe me, I will. I mean, that's the other thing here is that if you're slacking, I would have told you, but you're seeing it. The big thing on it, that we're looking for is at least an ability to recognize a leadership concept in the text that you're reading and then expand on it. Ultimately, what the purpose of this particular course is to do just that, but more to almost give you a self-study, a last chance, so to speak, to kind of get through, some of what you've now spent the better part of a couple of years, studying. In other words, an opportunity to readdress, change, things of that nature, or motivation or any other concept. Oh yeah, I mean that was the case last week, where we're talking about how do these companies address change. What was interesting was trying to get some to bring in what they already had, in LDR. I just lost it. 340, 440, whatever that was. In other words, what was your change image? What would you recognize in the way of, the leadership styles and the tech or the books we're reading? Would you say Marriott was a director, a coach, a navigator? You remember the six? You remember the 6 change images from that course?
Yeah.
Not many people bought off on it, and that's okay. I mean, we're talking at that point. That's high A level work. That's why I put in the question, try to get after that. In part because I'm curious to see, what your take is on it. Anyway,
right.
So that's kind of where some of this is coming from. Is not, hey, you're doing average work or you're screwing up. It's just I want to get everybody to clearly be masters of what they're talking about and get up into the high A level, if not
right. Yeah. No, and that's what we should all aim for, right? So, but no, I appreciate it. And again, kind of the weekly assignments and the comments and the feedback and stuff definitely help, because again, it kind of brings in that focus on the areas of the gaps that we haven't thought of. And that's what helps, at least, for me, kind of plug that and make sure I'm kind of bearing that in mind for the next assignment, right? So it definitely helps.